Greetings, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. Well, our look at Season 3 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine now continues on with the episode Second Skin. Quark finds the glum Dax sitting herself on the Replimat. She fears she's been set up by Kira, with whom she had plans to go antigraph sailing in the holosuites. Kira finally does show, and admits, though she hates the holosuites in general, she is looking forward to this outing. She does admit, however, that she would rather do the activity in the real world. But as they are leaving the Replimat, Kira receives a communication from the Bajoran Central Archives. Scholar Lennis Graham is studying Elmspur Prison and wants to ask Kira some questions about it. Kira's happy to help, but can't understand why Lennis is coming to her, since she was never at Elmspur. Lennis is puzzled by this, explaining that Cardassian records clearly indicate that Akira Nerys, member of the Shakaar resistance cell, was held at Elmspur during the occupation for 7 days. Kira is shocked when a mugshot of her, apparently from 10 years ago, appears on the screen. Above them, on the second loop promenade, a young woman, Yatepa, observes. Later, Kira discusses this mystery with Odo in the security office. He tells her that clearly either the records or her memories are wrong, but Kira says she knows exactly where she was that week. Odo is skeptical that she can remember her whereabouts 10 years after the fact. Kira says that entire winter was quite memorable because the Shakaar had to hide in caves from the Cardassians with little food or phaser power. The records have to be fake, and she has to find out who did it and why. Odo suggests that she contact one of the other inmates listed as her cellmates in the records. Kira contacts Yelm, the only surviving cellmate. To her astonishment, he recognizes her and says the Cardassians dragged her out of their cell. That was the last he saw of her. He thought her long dead and is glad to see that she survived the ordeal. Yelm remarks what a terrible time the occupation was for the people, and Kira solemnly agrees. Kira's deeply stirred that both the records and witnesses disagree with her memory of events. She tells Commander Sisto that she has to find out the truth and gives his blessing for a trip to Bajor to investigate. After Kira boards the transport leaving her planet, Yatepa follows her on. In the Replimat, Bashir and Elim Garak are sharing a table. Bashir tells the tale about his recent trip to Kaelstron 4, and Garak expresses his envy of the Doctor's freedom, as he only left the station once in 3 years. Bashir wonders if Garak fears the Cardassian government would kill him if he left the station. Garak denies that this is the case. Bashir does not believe him, but lets it go. Sisko and Dax are concerned when Lennis Graham informs them that Kira never showed up at Elmspur and cannot be located. Apparently she disappeared after leaving the spaceport on Bajor. In a dark room, Kira lies unconscious on a bed. A voice from the shadow says, "Wake her," and Yatepa gives her hypospray. Kira sits up, groggy, and Yatepa tells her she is safe. In front of her is a mirror, and Kira sees herself in it. To her horror, the face staring back at her is Cardassian. A man named Entek steps out of the shadows and tells her she is home, on Cardassia. Dun dun dun! Kira is stunned and backs away from them. Whatever they want from her, they're not going to get it, she vows. Entek explains that she is an undercover field operative of the Obsidian Order named Alana Gamor. Her appearance and memories are altered so that she can infiltrate the Bajoran resistance. She has been given drugs to reverse the memory loss and help her reintegrate back into Cardassian society. Although, of course, she does not yet remember it. Entek supervised her training in the Order. Kira does not believe him, but he tells her she's standing in the house where she was born. He gives her a data rod, which he claims she recorded a message to herself before she left on a mission to Bajor and leaves. Kira makes no move to view it. On the station, Sisko, Dax, and Odo discuss their search for Kira in the wardroom. Scans have found a residual electrostatic charge in the area where she was last seen. Sisko thinks that may indicate that she was transported away and wants a list of all ships in the area at the time. He asks Odo to get all the transporter activity logs for that area. Dax admits that the charge may have been caused by disruptor phaser fire, but Sisko is not yet ready to believe that yet. Kira finds that the window of her room is guarded by a force field. Entek enters and tells her that someone wants to see her. It's Kenny Gamor, her father. Gamor is overjoyed to see her, but she rebuffs him, telling him that her father died fighting Cardassians on Bajor. Entek does not want to leave them alone together, but Gamor insists that his daughter would never harm him. When they are alone, he tells Alana how much he has missed her. Kira acts with hostility. Gamor is saddened, but knows it is only because the memories of her Cardassian life have not yet resurfaced yet. He tells her to consider herself his guest and leaves. On the station, Garrick tells Bashir before he's about to go to bed that he has urgent news about Kira. Kira searches her room for surveillance devices. Gamora brings her a breakfast of Bajoran Hasperat and tells her that the Obsidian Order devices are not turned on in this house unless he requests it, since he is a member of Central Command. She turns down the food. Gamora notices her admiring a carving and tells her she made it for him when he was promoted to Legat. He says he wishes she had become an artist instead of joining the Order, but she was as stubborn as her mother. Kira informs him that her mother died of malnutrition in the Singa refugee camp. Gamora insists that her mother was an inquisitor at the Central University. He wished he had stopped her from going on her mission to Bajor, but she had been so determined. Her mother never forgave him. Kira tells him he is very convincing, but she still does not believe a word of his story. She storms away, ignoring his apologies. On the station, Sisko and Odo want Garrick to repeat what he told Bashir. He tells him there is nothing they can do for Kira if she is being held by the Obsidian Order. But they believe that, with Garrick's help, they can save her. Garrick is dubious, but agrees help when Sisko warns her that the Bajoran government have called for his removal from the station, but he is willing to convince them otherwise if he helps them. With no other choice, Garrick is forced to agree. Sisko's plan to reach Cardassia disguised the USS Defiant as a Cobharian freighter using shield modifications. Antic is concerned that Kira's memory of her life as Ilana has not resurfaced yet. Usually drugs work in a few hours, but 2 days have now passed with no effect. He says he has to start questioning her. Gamora objects, but Antic insists and tells him he should not be worried about her safety, since she is a member of the Order. Gamora tells Kira he'll be in the next room right away. Antic interrogates Kira about Deep Space Nine. She does not take him seriously and offers obviously false answers. Antic is not satisfied with the information she gives him and decides to use other methods to convince her she is really Ilana. He tells her the Order saves everything and has a biological specimen beamed into the room. Kira pulls back the covering sheet to reveal Bajoran corpse. She is looking at her own body. She says it has to be a clone or a hologram, but now fear has started to set in. Antic reminds her of an incident during her time in the Resistance when she shot a Harakat. She never told anyone about it, and Antic says he knows about it because he implanted that memory. Kira's doubt deepens. Antic leaves her, saying that he cannot wait much longer for the information he needs from her. If she does not supply it soon, he will have to take it from her mind by force. Later, Gamora was in on Kira while she is disabling the window force field. He tells her she tripped a silent alarm and in any case would not get far if she tried to escape. Kira tells him that she will never cooperate with the Order and, if he wants to help her, he has to get her off Cardassia. Gamora assures her that, no matter what happens, he will never let them hurt her. He begs her to watch the recording Ilana made before she decides what to do. Kira watches the recording, which shows a young Cardassian woman who looks and sounds very much like her. She is earnest in her belief that she is doing the right thing and going to Bajor to stop the terrorism even though her parents do not agree. On the Defiant, Garrick is caught snooping around the ship's weapons. Sisko is ready to have Garrick confined to quarters under guard when they are intercepted by Cardassian warships, giving the crew a chance to test their ruse. Through the holofilter, Sisko informs Gold Benil that he is Captain Vertarian of the Cobharian freighter Rakmunis on his way to Cardassia Prime. Benil, skeptical, insists that all incoming ships must be searched on the order of Central Command. Garrick tells Sisko to drop the holofilter to let him talk to Benil. The crew are wary, but do it. Garrick speaks to surprise Benil. This is an Alpha Red priority mission, clearance verification 9128 Black. By authority of the Central Command, you are ordered to turn your ships around. Erase all record of this encounter from your logs and speak of it to no one. The crew is astonished, but Benil agrees. Garrick explains himself that it's just something overheard while hemming someone's trousers. Antek continues his interrogation of Kira. He is starting to wear her down, and although she still gives away nothing. She is near the point of tears. Gamora enters and orders him to stop. Antek is furious that Gamora would second-guess the order but backs down. He tells Kira that the next time he sees her, it will have to be at Order headquarters. He leaves and the distraught Kira smashes the mirror on the wall. Gamora comforts her and, to her amazement, tells her he will get her off Cardassia. Later, Gamora gives Kira a bracelet he says belonged to her mother. She does not want to accept it, but he insists. They introduce her to Ari, the young Cardassian who is going to help her escape. Ari states his belief that Central Command wields too much power over the lives of Cardassians. Kira is shocked by what she is hearing. She now realizes that they are members of the Cardassian dissident movement. Gamora urges Kira to get away while she can, but she hesitates because she cannot believe that this is a mere coincidence. She begins to realize that the Order was never after her at all, but is trying to expose Gamora's ties to the movement by forcing him to save her. This is good for when Entek and 2 aides arrive, phasers drawn. Gamora calls for a beam-up and finds that there is a transporter suppression field around the house. Entek shoots and kills Ari when he tries to resist. Entek gloats that he has now put an end to the resistance. He tells Kira that while he would prefer she lives so she can give testimony, he is willing to dispose of her if she causes any trouble. Just then, Garrick and Cisco, who was carrying a backpack, arrive. Cisco throws the backpack on the floor and it turns out to be Odo, who surprises and disarms Entek. Cisco offers to take Gamora with him to the Defiant and he quickly agrees. As the group is leaving, Entek warns Garrick that the Obsidian Order was happy to let him live in exile, but after this, however, Garrick doesn't let him finish the threat. It makes to leave. Entek suddenly pulls a hidden phaser, and Garrick kills him, calling remarking, "A pity, I rather liked him." Back on the station, Kira's back to her old appearance and tells Gamora that Dr. Bashir has confirmed that she is indeed Bajoran. She was only surgically altered to appear Cardassian. Yelena has disappeared, having apparently been a spy planted by the Obsidian Order who also altered the Elmspur records. She wonders why Entek went to all the trouble of altering her, when the real Alana would have done just as well. But Gamora reminds her that the memory drugs would have worked on Alana, and she would have cooperated with the Order, giving Entek no opportunity to attack Gamora. Kira wonders if Alana is still alive, and Gamora believes that she is, and hopes that they will someday be reunited. Meanwhile, the Methanite government has offered him sanctuary, although Kira, who has grown fond of him, wishes he would stay, but Gamora believes Deep Space Nine is not the place for him. Before he goes, Gamora gives Kira some fatherly advice. Never trust Garrick. She tries to give him back the bracelet, but Gamora says she should keep it, since she's the closest thing he has to a family. Kira tells him she knows he is an honorable man and that his daughter must have loved him very much. Aww. So let's take a look at some continuity surrounding this episode. When Garrick is lamenting not having traveled much since his youth, he cites the trip he and Bashir took to Bajor as the only time he has left the station in 3 years. This refers to the events of Cardassians, when the both of us in Tozat Resettlement Center. And now let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. This is the first episode of the series to have music composed by David Bell. In the first sequence where the Cardassians contact Cisco while he's using the holofilter, the only shot of the Coperian disguise is stock footage from the original captain from Duet, with Avery Brooks lip-syncing the first sentence. Norma Large, the original actor in the makeup, was uncredited in this episode. Gamora appears again in the 5th season episode Ties of Blood and Water. Cole Meany, who plays Miles O'Brien, and Kara Glofton, who plays Jake Sisko, do not appear in this episode. Garrick's reference to the Defiant's cabins feeling claustrophobic hints at the fact that he suffers from claustrophobia, which is revealed later in the series. Kira says to Gamora at one point her mother died of malnutrition when she was 3. She later learns that her mother, Kira Maru, was actually taken as a comfort woman for Dukat in the season 6 episode Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night. The brief scene of 2 Cardassians watching the outdoor monitor playing the Look to the Children message is taken from Tribunal, though with some changes. In Tribunal, the shot starts by showing a wider angle of the city and pans over to the screen as 2 Cardassians walk into view, ending just after one turns toward the other. In this episode, the shot starts as the one Cardassian turns toward the other and continues for several seconds, more compared to when it ended the original version. The message on the screen is also playing from a different timestamp. So overall, I think this episode is kind of interesting, and yeah, let's just say that, I do feel kind of bad for what Kira went through in this episode, so yeah. So overall, I give Second Skin 4 warp cores out of 5. Anyway, tune in a bit as we take a look at the next episode, The Abandoned. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.